Welcome to This Week in Pulling, the show that brings you all the action from the world of tractor and truck pulling. I'm Dan Mayer, joined by Jeremy and Miles Krieger, and each week we'll dive into the latest highlights, breaking news, and behind-the-scenes stories from the sport we all love. From upcoming events, standout performances, and the rich history that shaped pulling into what it is today, we've got you covered. So buckle up, This Week in Pulling starts now. Well, welcome back. This Week in Pulling, episode 34. Guys, how's it been going?
Hi, Dan. Good afternoon, good evening to everyone watching and everyone around the country and the world. And good to be here with you for another week. And welcome back, Brother Miles. Glad you're here.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry I missed you last week. It was, I just, I wasn't feeling very well there, surprisingly enough, after everything. But to the folks that don't know, I had to have a colonoscopy because I turned 45 years old last Monday, and then on Wednesday I got to do that. So needless to say, by the time we were going to be doing our recording, I was feeling a little less than stellar, and I decided I was going to rest a little bit last Wednesday while I was at home. So miss you, and certainly glad to be back and be a part of this deal and kind of have some further discussion about what's going on with pulling. So
absolutely, and of course, guys, the breaking news. There's our breaking news graphic there that we have here to use at our disposal. We've got the Southern Swing that was announced yesterday. NTPA Grand National Pulling returning to the state of Florida. Going to have 4 classes at each of the events. Both of the events are back-to-back. So it'll kind of be a real busy month of March with the Gator Nationals the first weekend and then the 2 events in Florida. And, what's your guys' thoughts?
Well, I'm excited to see it go back to the Sunshine State. I know they've been kind of toying with that. I guess the only concern I have is, weather and then, putting crops in. If people are going to plant, and a lot of people, as the time has gone by, they start getting into the fields, mid-March. So that'll be interesting to see how that all works and what classes they decide to send down there and how that all goes. But I'm excited. I think back to back, and I think you'll have a lot of people who maybe just stay down there and do some vacation type stuff or maybe some sightseeing and go from one to the next. But yeah, good for them. I think it's great to see them headed back to Florida.
Well, they've already determined the 4 classes, Jeremy, so we do know those, and that makes sort of the first of it, and they're going to keep those 4 for both days, both weekends down there. Is this a point circuit?
Yes. Grand National Circuit will start in Florida for those 4 classes.
So which 4 are they sending?
So light modifieds, you'll see also the modified minis, the super stock diesel trucks, and the limited pro stocks are going to start off their Grand National campaign down in the Sunshine State.
Okay. Interesting. Well, and we said we thought.
I think it's good. It's good.
We think like we said, we thought that light mod and 4-1s would start to see some parity and maybe branch out a little bit. So I guess that's what they're going to do.
Yeah. So the way it's drawn up here is, of course, going to have the first one will be down in Zellwood, Florida, which is just outside of Orlando. So big area there to work off of with the Zellwood area, and also the folks down there in Zellwood are very agricultural related down there.
Sure.
They want to make sure that pulling kind of stays down in that area. So they're pretty committed down there as well. And then the following week, we'll move up north to Satsuma, Florida, which is like east of Ocala, Gainesville, kind of that area up there. So about 2.5 hours from the Orlando area is how it works out.
Good deal.
But they've been hooking there at both those locations over the last few years, right?
Yes.
I mean, this is not new, and they've been running minis down there. I'm pretty sure they were running super farm tractors because I'm pretty sure that Gary Schvink or some of those guys had been going down there to run, right?
Yeah, Mark Kelsey, the light superstock competitor from up Illinois, actually owns the Just Add Dirt Motorsports Park there, where the Satsuma event is, and he's obviously he's a guy that has put on a couple pulls down there the last couple of years in his motorsports park, which is actually an old racetrack, and he's kind of converted it to running different motorsports, including tractor pulls, and I know they got mud bogs and sand drags and different things they got that they've run there in the past. So it's so it's pretty neat to see that Grand National events, and then of course you've got Ocala still runs down there. They do run some. I think they were with PPL last year for their events down there. I do believe there was a couple others as well, but yeah, this will be pretty cool. Grand National Pulling hasn't happened down there since 1979 was the last year that they did that. Now, there's been a whole bunch of pulls, obviously Ocala back in the 70s and the early 80s with old Region 4, but Grand National Pulling was actually Tampa Fairgrounds in 79 was the last Grand National down there. So I know some folks had, seen some stuff on TNN. They pulled down in Naples. That was an invitational pull down there in the mid 90s. You might remember that on, Trucks and Tractor Power or one of the shows like that. But yeah, that was invitational. And earlier than that, they also did some invitational pulls down there as well. So that's kind of the way things have wrapped up. And then really, it really hasn't, it kind of went stagnant there for a while until they started bringing back the pulls, and you saw some NTPA regionals a few years back, and then now, moving on through. So yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Now, are these single track venues?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
There'll be four class single track events will be how it's worked out.
Well, that's exciting. And like I say, it'll be here before you know it.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe. It's
that's
we got to finish up this weekend here with Madera, California. Got the Golden State Invitational. The Massettis put that great event on at the Madera Speedway, which is a very interesting venue because the fairgrounds there in California in Madera are actually like in I would say like a shopping center, basically. So you have off one corner, you got a Home Depot, you got a Lowe's, and the fairgrounds are kind of right behind all those big shopping, stores and stuff like that. So it's but I mean, it's a NASCAR, I think it's like a 3/8 mile asphalt track.
Okay.
They pull right in the infield there, and second year for me going, and I'm excited about it. I know they've got another great field of competitors out there, and get to see Brant Sullivan. Brant's going to be pulling out there, and his team, Steve Melanasia, he's very, very involved in that event out there as well, and he's a tough competitor, that's for sure.
So, absolutely, I'm excited to see that all going. It's coming in on full pull, right? They're going to.
It'll be a full pull this weekend. Both events will be 6, Western time, so it'll be it'll be what, 9 o'clock or so.
Lady go back here, Eastern, sure.
But yeah, both events will be 6 o'clock, and that'll be West Coast time. Both events, and yeah, looking forward to it. Should be a great event. Now, the only, unfortunately, we had a major accident last night at the Louisville airport, and a UPS plane unfortunately crashed last night. And as of right now, I do believe there's been no flights going out. So hopefully everything gets sorted out here and be able to head out. I'm supposed to head out first thing in the morning. So, but condolences to all those involved there, and just a terrible, terrible accident.
Absolutely. And of course, our thoughts and prayers are with everybody affected. But yes, hopefully they'll be able to resume more operations tomorrow. I haven't heard an update today. But, just read here real quick and see. There is an update today. It's basically saying closely monitor your flight status.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what it said yesterday. So we'll see. Hopefully be able to get out in the morning, and we'll see. And Well, Miles, we want to circle back a little bit to last weekend. It seems like every week we seem to get a big news nugget every week. And last week was the box turbo for the limited pros for the outlaw class. And Jeremy and I we touched on it quite a bit, and we just wanted your take on what were your thoughts on that whole deal.
Yeah, no, I guess for me, it's no secret I've been a big fan of the Outlaws for a long time, and I appreciate their sort of thought processes on doing what they feel like is best for their organization, and not worrying about what is best for maybe the broad spectrum. So, if you look at it objectively and you realize what's best for the Outlaws, then obviously Kurt, Kyle, Stoney, all those guys out there think that this is the right choice. And so, for me, who am I to try to know or understand better what it is that they need for their organization? I don't know what they need for their organization. They do. Do I wish, for the sake that, we go to certain events, we could intermingle and have that sort of commonality? Well, sure. But I also think that these guys are the types that it wouldn't be a problem for them to have another turbo if they wanted to, or to change things up. And obviously, I think from the game side of things out there, everybody having the exact same turbo, from what I understand, is a Hartz turbo. That just kind of levels the playing field for the tech side of things and for the debate side of things, whereas you might have somebody who's running a different one. So it does not surprise me, and that decision doesn't surprise me, because like I said, I've known how the Outlaws hone in on what they need to do for the nucleus of their people. And obviously, I think, there may have been some pushback from some of their membership guys that may have been running, other products. So I can't say that it was just probably a scot-free decision, but I also realize that at the end of the day, they're looking at what they think's the best for their group. So, for me, for anybody else involved, like I said, it's not my place to be able to tell them how they need to do things. But I think in time, they'll be able to be figuring it all out, and they'll still put on an awesome show.
Well, you guys remember, I mean, when Doug Roberts introduced the 5.0 turbo, the box turbo for the pro stock class, remember the sky is falling. I mean, it was going to be the worst thing that ever come about, and now 5.0 pro stocks are the hottest thing going, pretty much. I mean, you look at different organizations, and everybody's going for that 5.0 turbo, and now all of a sudden he looks like a genius.
Sure.
I think this decision's probably maybe different, I guess. My thought process is, when they went to that 5.0 rule, they were wanting to be able to have longevity, and they wanted to have all of their people guaranteed when they arrived at a certain venue that, hey, we're going to have all 14 of our pro stock tractors that are running for points here. We've promised the promoter, and we're going to have them. And I think that was the main objective, was, hey, this is a way for us to try to get longevity in what we're doing and not have breakage every time. I don't know if the 4.1 is the same sort of decision. Maybe it is, because I will say at the very end of the year, we saw catastrophic damage occur in that game. And so because of that, maybe it is something that they, that factored into the decision of it all. But I think commonality also is part of it, and they know what they're getting with Hartz, and they know that they can control what they, the things they want to control for each one. And so as that, crate of those turbos arrives and they have their designated pickup area, there's not going to be any debate as to what's right and what's wrong. It's all the same.
Yeah, and I, also to add to that, Miles, like at the end of the year, really the numbers for the limited pros on the outlaw side, where years ago they had, 20 to 25, they were dipping down, single digits and, low teens, where you hadn't seen that in quite a while. And, for an organization that pretty much really brought that class to the national forefront, really. They were one of they've been running them for, going back, my gosh, I was looking the other day, and it goes back over some 20 some years, that they've been running them. And it just kind of interesting, have to reach out a little bit here, see if we can find out some answers on it, and what was why the big decision, and maybe to get them numbers to come swing back around.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of I got to figure out how I want to say this properly and make it more eloquent, I guess you would say but I think a lot of times we're starting to see some of this now with the NTPA. The NTPA is making decisions on their membership and making decisions on what's best for them, and not looking at it from this broad pulling world perspective, but from this niche perspective of what's best for us. And I don't fault the Outlaws for that. I don't fault them one bit for knowing their people, knowing what they have and knowing what they need, and being able to go out and make the promises and keep those promises to the places that they're going and to the people that are helping pay their bills. I mean, promoters and competitors, without them, those shows don't exist. And so when you make the promise to the promoter that you're going to have 20 in a class or 15 in a class, and when you make the promise to the competitor that, hey, we're going to do this from longevity perspective, and we're going to make sure that we're protecting you, like, I guess for me, I value that. I would look at that as a competitor and appreciate it. So, we do need to make it a point to get Kurt or Ron or Kyle or somebody on here and let them explain, kind of have their voice and chat with us a little bit deeper about it, because obviously this isn't going to be the only decision that they're going to make in time that is for these types of decisions within the class or a specific class or spec. So kudos to them, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, time will tell. That'll be the. But like you say, usually, they make a decision like that, it works out. They got to, we got some other classes that are kind of, the numbers haven't been where they, would like them to be here the last couple of years, and lots of things they've been working on, and it's just for all the miles that they travel and all that. So yeah, we'll see how it all works out here as the.
Yeah, I guess if you were really going to look at it, and truly going to study it, if there were people that were going to be really frustrated or mad about it, first and foremost, it's people that are making turbos elsewhere other than Hearts that might be a little miffed by it all. And second, competitors that are running turbos other than Hearts would probably be bothered by it, because they obviously have a combination that they like. And I don't know what Brian's running out there, but Brian Deck was the winner of that points race out there, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, I believe Brian's son won the points out there, but yeah, Deck tractor. Yep.
The Dream On tractor that's been pretty tough, for years was the points winner. I don't know what his combination is, but I'm guessing if history holds itself true, his relationship with Salem Bean tells me that, maybe in the past he's got Apex or something like that, maybe, and that Ryan would still be doing his work. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Right.
Because for years he was working with Ryan up there. So that, I could see how somebody in that particular instance who's got a combination that's been working, and you don't want to have to make that change, that could possibly upset you. I get that, but at the end of the day, or organizationally, you're choosing what's best for the whole body as opposed to a single individual.
Well, and I think to your point, if they lose pullers on account of that, it's not on them. They did what was best for them. They did what they want to do to take their show to the level they want to take it to. And if they gain some folks and they lose some folks, that's just pulling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be the way that sport seems to go, and we'll see what happens. I hope the best for them, and great organization. The few outlaw pulls that I've been to and just been outstanding as far as well-run events, and the equipment top notch, and they've got some unique classes that light limited modified class was really something that I saw for the first time this year out in Rock Valley.
Yeah,
it had my attention. It really it was kind of neat just going to all the different competitors and hey, what do we got here? And wow, LS1 engines and just different things, and it was pretty neat to see. So yeah, hats off to them guys.
Well, I think in today's day and age, especially in the diesel truck ranks, it's not uncommon at all to take multiple turbos to an event and switch them. They do it all the time. So, if you're a Hearts guy or you're a, Apex guy or you're, whoever you're with, if you decide to run an outlaw show, you just bolt the Hearts on there and run with it.
So
Yeah,
I think
I think
Weimer's
that's
probably doing 4-1s as well, right?
What was that, Miles?
I said I'm assuming Weimer's making 4.1 turbos. I'm
I
trying to think
believe
of all of the people that would be. When you think about super stock diesel, you think about pro stock. Weimer's really been kind of the
forefront,
the way
right?
to go in super farm over the years. It appears like Apex has really been kind of the gold standard over these last few years, obviously, and in the 4.1, I think there's kind of a variety of guys, and it's really based off your loyalty and who you're wanting to run with, which turbo you go with. Whereas in one class here or one class there, you've kind of got to go with those others. It seems like so. Guys, I'm not technologically sound enough to know and understand all the inner workings of how they all work, and what sort of changes are we making. I need to do a better job of learning that, and maybe this will inspire some of that for me to be able to know kind of comparatively which ones are better. This is where our cohort post or somebody like that would be able to very easily depict what's going on with the turbos and even further help us with that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, we'll see what happens here moving forward. And these organizations, like you say, you got to do what's best for them. And I think being on the other side of the river out there, I think that's hey, we'll see how it all shakes out here this year. And of course, you hear from folks that once again the sky is falling and all this, and everybody gets a little some of the feathers ruffled here and there, but usually when it all works out, everything looks good to go. So we'll see.
Well, let's talk a little bit about kind of some more exciting stuff you got to experience this past weekend there, Dano. I mean, obviously, you've been quite the journeyman over the course of the calendar year of 2025, and your introduction to full pull and involvement with full pull has only further thrust you into the idea of an airplane or a drive your vehicle or whatever you're doing. But man, I don't know how many miles you've put on, but it's a lot.
Yeah, we last weekend had the opportunity, had a free weekend, so was able to kind of work in. Joe Eder had a more or less a celebrate his years of pulling, and like to thank all the folks that were with him along the way. Got to see a lot of folks that I haven't seen in a quite a few years, so that was a lot of fun. And had a visit with my oldest boy as well, so that made it all worthwhile. And yeah, so Joe put on a big party there in his hometown, and just would like to wanted to thank everybody for all the years. And you went back all the way to the early years when Joe started with his Econo mod and worked into his first Grand National 5-engine tractor there he got from Tim Engler, and some great stories. Everybody kind of talking through things. But of course the big announcement was his sponsorship with SCAG, and 5-year deal. There you take a look at the still got the Emax on there. You see it on the side shields there, and got a 5-year deal here with SCAG. And congratulations to Joe and the team, and they'll represent them well. And they got the hauler's been they got the wrap on the hauler too as well. And Joe was telling me that I think there's 3 or 4 NHRA events that they'll have the tractor there on display, and that'll be a great crossover promotion for pulling, obviously. But yeah, it's great to see this corporate sponsorship, and hopefully we'll see that'll hopefully bring more to the sport as well.
Well, SCAG's definitely gotten involved with drag racing quite a bit. Like seeing them involved with Jeg's team and some of the pro stock teams, and even I think going back to Wilkerson's even. So that's pretty awesome to have that involvement. Yeah, awesome they got to have that involvement in the sport.
So what do you guys think? I mean, as far as you think this might propel some other, hey, you got rivals. Well, you got Ferris mowers on Jeff Hurt's tractor, so here you go. Now you got some competition for lawnmowers. So
Yeah, and I mean we had Dixie choppers back in the day, so I mean yeah, this is no no stranger to the game, but yeah, I think it can only help, and it doesn't hurt at all that Joe Eder is an ambassador for the sport and one of the best in the business in terms of winning championships with 10 or however many he has now. But yeah, I think it only I think if people can see what he does, certainly other people will want to enter the fray. It's only good for pulling, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, he does a good job representing our sport, and you think about his interview. He's a good interview. He does a fine job with that sort of thing, and isn't afraid to shy away. He doesn't shy away from a camera, whereas a lot of times we kind of experience that with some of our folks in the sport. So as you get deeper in this and you look, I mean, I hope it does inspire further involvement. I hope it does inspire more sponsors and things like that to come and be intrigued by the brands that can be kind of gaining from our loyal fan base that is so strong in the sport. So I think that's awesome. I'm glad you made the trip, Dan. I think you're lucky in the instance that if I have an off weekend, that off weekend is usually planned to the minute with work around the Krieger abode. So kudos to you for for having an off weekend and just being able to go to New York.
Well, like I say, it worked out good with my, being able to see my oldest boy there. Yeah. So,
Yep.
Brett, we had a good time there, and that you never, that's always an added bonus when you get to see my oldest boy there, because he's unfortunately he wasn't able to go to the Joe's party on Saturday. He had previous commitments, but yeah, he's been part of that Eder team over the years, and worn a couple of different crew shirts back in his younger days, and yeah, so that was a lot of fun. But yeah, seeing some folks out there. Got to see Vern Corey, 92 Grand National champion, the Papa Bear. Vernon was out there with his wife, and Dave Laskowski, of course, another Grand National champion. But lots of folks that ran up and down the roads there in Western New York, Eastern New York, were out there, and good to see all those folks again. So that was definitely a lot of fun. Ken Vini was out there as well. Got to talk to Ken. That's always an added bonus. Anytime that you get to talk to Ken and he starts going on some of his old drag racing stories, I could sit there for hours and listen to those. Those are just, unbelievable when he starts talking about the, back in the day. I love those.
For sure.
For sure.
It was seemed like a really neat event.
Yep.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a great event. And
did he cater it with the Coney Island hot dogs?
No. There's where they are there in Langford. There is I'm not sure who the caterer is, but she used to do all the events when we used to have the meetings with the Empire State Pullers. Used to do the meetings there in Langford, and there's a caterer lady. My goodness, if I live close enough to her, that'd be bad news, because just the food is, every time I've had it's just spectacular. So yeah, there's a local lady there, and she does an awesome job. So yeah, that was the hot dogs will be later on down in Florida. I'm sure those will be later. The Coney Island.
Yeah.
Now, did you get to go to any SCCA events with your son?
I did not this last time that I was up there. They're pretty much done for the season. See, up in Western New York this time of year, it's kind of hit and miss. You could have snow one weekend, or it might, this time of year the lake's not frozen, so that's when you usually get the big snows come in. We had Snowvember there back in 2014, I think it was, where 7 feet of snow in my driveway, and that was pretty much at that point I got looking into moving south at that point, and
understood.
I just had enough of it. But it was the weather was pretty good. It was in the the 40s. It was a little chilly, but it was, like you say, no snow, and it was just a great time, great weekend. And thanks to Joe and everybody for having a great event and putting that deal on. And it's you start looking back at competitors that have been in it a long time, and you come to mind, obviously Bill Leichner started before Joe. But after that, really, the pool starts to get pretty thin. Rob Russell, guys like that. Kevin Schmucker that have been doing it a long time, and just when you're driving, you start thinking of different things, and it's like, I wonder how many, you start, how many guys have been doing this for as long as they have. And I know like Rob Russell had that little break in between, and, but yeah, it's kind of interesting to, kind of go through that and figure out, hey, how long's he been pulling? And, so there's quite a few that are still out there, and obviously on to the next generation. And
But I was the other day trying to think about how many over the course of his career, how many different sponsors Joe Eder has utilized to get him where he is. Like I can think of like, Sorrento cheese way back in the day.
yeah,
There's just been a whole lot, and I applaud him for utilizing pulling and working with different partners over the years. But I mean, Geico, of course, Emax. I'm probably
He's
forgetting a
got
bunch.
fluid damper on him on there
Yeah,
with him.
that was a
Pico
local
oil.
sponsor there, and Finish Line Express.
Yeah,
Remember
Buffalo Turbine is one of those that he's had for a long time, and
trying to think the T-shirt company there, Finish Line Express, and I don't know if you guys saw the pictures, but he's got some of those old fenders, like the old Odd Couple fenders. He has those, the Sorrento cheese ones. He's got the Finish Line Express ones there, and some great great artifacts. Love to see that stuff. That guys hang on to that kind of stuff, and it's kind of neat.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, I know you saw those just as much as I did this past week. Somebody was posting some wonderful early like US hot rod photos of like early two-wheelers, and there were some in there that I never even seen before. The Steel City Express, I think I'd seen it as a crew cab, but I'd never seen it as a single cab S10. And then another one called Pretty Poison that I've never seen before.
I think that was the Dana Stevens truck from out Oklahoma. I think that was a repaint there that I'm almost positive. Of course, those are the old short wheelbase trucks that US Hot Rod debuted when two-wheelers were hot back then. US Hot Rod come up with the short, what did they call them? The short truck. I can't remember what the exact term was for them, but the mini truck, basically mini truck two-wheel drive class, where you had the Chevy S10, you had the Ford Ranger, which Ford was a sponsor back then, and then you saw some different very, very interesting and then you had Bill Romsberg out of Pennsylvania with the Toyota.
Yep.
Yeah, he had the Toyota there.
Later went to the Austin family in Illinois.
Yes, I was gonna, and that's what I was working towards, Jeremy, that you were the pilot of that machine back years ago.
Well, I was a pilot of it as an S10. It was no longer a Toyota when I got into it.
It was converted at that point, but those are some pretty cool shots there. And
that truck's in Virginia now, by the way.
Oh, is it? Okay, it's still around. Okay.
It's still around and is an NA two-wheeler. It's a naturally aspirated two-wheeler called two-stepping now.
Oh, okay. Two-stepping. Wasn't there a two-stepping in Illinois? Wasn't there?
Yes, I believe so.
Bandelow, Greg Bandelow.
Greg and Jace Bandelow.
Yep, you got it. Yep, that was the old two-stepping.
They're at Decatur area there, yes.
Back in the.
You think about like Joe Eder, you go back into the longevity of these guys. I wish that we had a rolling odometer. I'd like to know how many miles he's put on a rig, a lifetime rig, his body of the rig, let's say, of how many miles he's put on over the span. How many has Leishner put on over 50 years almost of pulling? Like how many miles have they put going to pulls? I bet it's a pretty enormous number.
I know he had quite a few miles on the old school bus. He had the school bus there for quite a while. He was hauling his new Angler tractor around with the school bus there for the early years when he ran Grand National there the first couple of years. And with another interesting story that Vernon Corey was telling me about when they won the Grand National Championship in 92, because, Joe's won 10 national championships, but he said actually Joe's won 10 and a half because Joe and his team used to help Vernon with that Papa Bear just about every run, putting that thing back together and fixing everything. He says, you wouldn't believe how much work we did on that tractor. So he says, actually, Joe's got 10.5 championships. He says because he's half of that Papa Bear championship. So, oh, there it is. Okay, look at that.
But yeah, it's in the state of Virginia now, and it's owned by the Poats family, Poats, and they run NA two-wheeler all across the great state of Virginia, or the Commonwealth, I guess, as it is.
Yes, Commonwealth of Virginia. Wow. So once again, another old two-wheeler that has been repurposed, right?
Absolutely, and that of course that one's very sentimental to me. So I'm always gonna, make sure I remember and follow where it's going from time to time. But it looks like it's here to stay. Like it's been out there and I think that's where it went. Once the Austins got rid of it, it went straight to Virginia, and that's where it has stayed.
And speaking of old school, I did see last weekend out at the Babel's Pull out there in California, the old one and only Corvette, or not Corvette, I think it was a Trans Am, Bob Borba's old funny car.
Nice.
Still making, I'm just hoping maybe it shows up this weekend. I don't know, but it was out at Babel's Pull last weekend, and one of the original funny cars that back in the early 80s, Bob Borba, and of course, I think it was his brother John that promoted a lot of pulls out in the West Coast. They did pulls out there in Hawaii as well. They did a couple on the Big Island right there at the and that was a John Borba promoted event out there. I know Jaskies went out there, and there was quite a few of them. But yeah, that was pretty neat to see one of the old funny cars, because that was before they started moving the engines forward.
Right.
And they realized that having the engine in stock location there on a funny car and pulling, that didn't work out too good.
Now, did they have four-wheelers out there at Babel's Pool too?
That I couldn't tell you. I know they had like almost 150 hooks, so they probably did. I mean, four-wheel drives are pretty popular out there still.
I wonder where the old Coelho trucks have ended up out there.
Well, I saw the one last year. I saw the obviously Dan passed away here a couple months ago, but his son-in-law is still running the small Dakota bodied one. Now I don't know what happened.
Is that the Wild Bear, the yellow one, right?
Yep. And that would have been the one that he brought out. Remember the Bowling Green back in mid 90s, I would say, right? Chapel Hill, before he got rid of the big Dodge there, and he had the Red Rabbit too.
Yep.
And I don't remember, but I'll have to do some investigating this weekend if they're out there and find out where those trucks went, and because there was at one time there was quite a few of them. And interesting too with the two-wheel drives. Now Brant Sullivan had told me that they'd pretty much died out there, which was surprising because late 80s, early 90s, there was a whole bunch of two-wheelers out there.
Yeah,
they just kind of went away. And
Greer Hamilton was out there.
Yeah, and but Brant's been working on it, getting the two-wheelers back out there, and I think there's 7 or 8 of them here this weekend that are going to be out there. So
good deal.
That'll be interesting to see what kind of stories are behind some of those. So
my knowledge of California trucks is very limited, but I remember those two, and I remember Greer Hamilton, and who could forget Bruce McClintock's Tinker Toy, and you had the Californian. The Californian there of Ribeiro's ran Grand National there early on before they sold that to Dan Savage in Pennsylvania. They had, and then of course the Mellows out in the mini rod class, and so it.
Donnie Reeves got a whole fleet of 4-wheel drive trucks out there too right now.
Right, yeah, he's got and sold the minis. Remember, he brought those out to Bowling Green when they brought their 4-wheelers out there. Gosh, that had to be 18, 19, something like that. He had brought them out there, and they got a whole that's a whole generational team there. 3 generations of Reeves that pull and the 4-wheel drive. So some great pulling, and hope the weather's good for us and able to see everybody make it down the track there. Double track action. One thing for sure, they run a solid show out there. They don't mess around. You're usually 2.5 hours, you're done, and they get the fans in, they get them out.
Well, and didn't you say that the Owens is headed that way last year? Yeah,
last year they were out there, and that's where I actually got to see the old War Wagon. Paul Dorman's actual old chassis was out there, and a gentleman from Washington runs it now. So that made it out there as well. So some great pulling out there, and like I say, hopefully Mother Nature gives us a break here and able to get all the action in.
For sure. So
So
that's exciting. So I hope you don't. Know you'll have to get adjusted to Central Time over the course of the next, few days. But it'll be good to get you out there. But I'm interested to see once you, you being the statistician that you are, I want to know how many hooks you did this summer, and how many states, how many sessions, and how many miles you traveled. That's what I'd like to see, because I bet it's an alarming number. Like it's got to be staggering when you figure out how many different states you've been in. I mean, you went to Louisiana, you went to Georgia, you've been going to California, you've done all your, all the other things you already ordinarily would have done. Wisconsin, of course, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana,
just not east
Texas.
anymore.
Texas. It's
nothing out east anymore, which is kind of surprising. That whole Northeast, where used to be a hotbed, used to crisscross, New York State and then up in Ontario and Quebec, and now there's hardly anything. There's still the state organizations out there, but as far as the national stuff, yeah, it's kind of, and got to get that back. Got to get everybody's got to get out there, and the Northwest corner. Haven't been there yet, so that's a uncharted territory. But
there isn't a lot going on up there, though.
No, that's what they tell me, but that's what they say. So yeah, hopefully everything goes well out there, and good luck to everybody. The Golden State Invitational this weekend, and get that event in, and that'll put a check mark on the season. Now we'll get into banquet season next weekend. I know PPL's got theirs next weekend on Saturday night, and Outlaws will follow the week after. And you're going out to which one's that? The KTPA banquet.
Yeah, I'm headed. It's the same night. Unfortunately, I have to miss the pro pulling banquet this year, but KTPA's is the evening of the 15th in. Down at Dale Hollow Resort State Park there, just on the Tennessee line. So I'm going to go there Saturday night, the 15th.
Yeah. How about you, Miles? Any banquets on the platter, or you got the North American coming, don't you?
Yeah, he's going to be.
North American is, sadly enough, North American is the same weekend as the PPL banquet. So while I will be in Louisville, I have an annual meeting to attend for the South Down Association that we raise animals for. And so that's Saturday night at 6:30, and the banquet, I think, is at 7. So probably doubtful I get to make it into town for that deal. I may make it Friday evening for the kind of mixer for all the employees and visit there. And but, certainly hopefully everybody has an awesome time and safe travels, and great event to that deal. And this coming weekend, I'll be involved with a wedding here, and for some folks getting married here in the pulling community, which is going to be a first for me. So we'll see how that goes, and hopefully all goes well. But it's tractor pulling. Announced the Big Ten Conference cross country meet this past weekend, and a wedding this weekend. So get to check off a new box in my resume.
Very cool. Well, that'll conclude episode 34, guys, and say safe travels, everybody out there this weekend if you're out and about, and we'll see you back here next week, and we'll see. Who knows? I mean, the streak's been going here. We've had big announcements here the last, 3-4 weeks, so maybe that streak will continue.
Let's hope so.
We need to raise our bar a little bit here with some guests. Last week for our Friends with No Practice podcast had Kyle Petty on there. Yeah. This week they've got a Colts player, so we're going to have to figure out a way to be competitive with those guys a little bit.
Yeah, we'll get there. I mean, that's kind of how this works. We gotta up our game a little bit here, but we'll do that. Off season's here, and we'll work on that and get some folks with us.
Have a good week, everybody.
All right. We'll see everybody.